And I am George Dalton. Both Lucian and I are building contractors here in Hopkinsville. We both live on East 7th Street, and we both had readings from Edgar Cayce.
Yes, I was born in Hopkinsville in 1870. My father was a grocer, and I went to public school. Being civic-minded and ambitious, I knew I had to make something of myself, and at 24, I decided to run for politics. Eventually, working my way up to being master commissioner. And at the same time, I was building a name for myself as a building contractor.
Just hold on a second. He failed to tell you that he married my sister, Nora. And people in the community associated him with the Dalton brothers, the premier manufacturer of bricks and builders here in Hopkinsville. And I served as the president. And I have somewhere, I can't find it, a list of all the buildings we built. It's somewhere here.
George, we're here to talk about Edgar Cayce, remember?
Hey, if you insist. I think they would rather hear about my buildings than I built. But I probably had one of Edgar's first readings. Let's go back to the summer of 1905. Edgar was not famous yet. And earlier that year, the Dalton brothers had received a contract to build the freight station for L&N Depot. Now, that beautiful brick building still stands right there adjacent to the railroad on East 9th Street, across the street from the L&N Depot. And you can't miss it because there is a big sign on it that says freight station. Now, one morning I decided I needed to go check on the progress of the building, see how the brick masons were doing. Now, like any other site, it was full of rubble, and I don't know what happened next. But either I tripped over something or I just misstepped and I went down hard. And my knees started hurting. It was the worst pain I had ever experienced in my life. And there was no way I could walk home. So a couple of the men picked me up and took me back to my house, which luckily was only about a block away from the building site. And the next thing I know, a group of doctors were surrounding me and trying to decide what to do. They ended up putting me in traction. And for the next week, I was in that traction and I still was in great pain. So at that point, they decided I needed an x-ray of my knee. Now, the closest doctor that had an x-ray machine was Dr. Blakely, who also happened to live on East 7th Street. So since I couldn't walk to the doctor's office, a group of my friends and workers picked up my bed with me in it and proceeded down East 7th Street. Now that caused quite a commotion. People came out of their house to see what was going on. They acted like they had never seen a bed going down the street with somebody in it. Why, it even made the newspaper.
You know, you haven't spoken about Cayce once.
I'm getting to it. They needed some background information on what happened. But everything from here on is kind of fuzzy. I'm really not for sure exactly what happened.
And that's because of Dr. Wesley Ketchum.
Oh, yes, that young doctor from Ohio, Wesley Ketchum. When he came and opened up his office in Hopkinsville, his remedies and treatments for his patients were not ordinary, what other doctors would have prescribed. It was different. And for some reason, people in Hopkinsville do not like difference. So, by the time he finally skipped town with the French teacher from Bethel College, people said good riddance.
what George is trying to say is Dr. Ketchum was larger than life.
Well, that's one way to put it. He did sell some tall tales.
He did, but there was some truth there too. He was the one that went to the national newspapers to tell about Edgar's story. Of course, he never called Edgar or asked for his permission. He was always about fame.
And in the 1960s, Dr. Ketchum, of course, he was up there in age because my accident happened in 1905. He spoke at a conference and he told the attendees at the conference that he had gotten a reading from Edgar Casey to fix my leg. Now, this is one of his early readings, so it is not recorded. But he said he took the advice of Dr. Casey, which was to manufacture a nail. He even gave the specifics of that nail, and to hammer that nail into my knee. And I get shaky just even thinking about it. So he told the attendees that I was fixed fair and square.
Maybe some of that's true, maybe all of it's true, perhaps none of it's true.
Well, you see, I lived for 17 more years after the accident, but by the time, a couple of last years of my life, I got pretty crippled and I couldn't run the business anymore, so I turned it over to my younger brother, Monroe. Now, you all are probably sitting there. Did Edgar Casey actually had a reading to hammer a nail into my knee? Did Ketchum actually do it? Did I go to a grave with a nail in my knee? See, this is in the 1960s, so anybody that had first-hand experience of my accident was long gone. I guess you could say that truth is buried here at Riverside Cemetery.
Now, that's not trying to suggest anyone go out there and start digging up bodies right now.
No. Now, Lucian also had some dealings with Casey and Ketchum.
Yes, but Ketchum was a legitimate homeopath, George.
Well, I will say that some of his remedies did work for certain people, and if he didn't know what to do for a patient, he had Edgar Casey do a reading. Then he would go back to his patient and prescribe the remedy, and the patient would get well. The one thing he failed to do, he failed to tell the patient that it was a Casey reading. He made them think that he came up with a remedy all by himself.
Yes, sometimes he was known for that. But to be fair, he did tell me he was going to Casey to consult about my appendix. So here's what happened. In the summer of 1905, I fell ill, and when I went to the doctor, he was worried and demanded that I have my appendix removed. Well, I, being afraid of undergoing such a dangerous surgery, sent out for a second opinion, and a third opinion. Well, all the doctors said the same thing, it was my appendix. I ended up with Dr. Ketchum, where he, though agreeing with the previous doctors, also reached out to Edgar Casey to have him sleep on it. And come to find out, it wasn't my appendix. I had lesions on my spine, and I wasn't able to excrete waste properly, but after taking Mr. Casey's treatments, I was perfect. And what I'd give to be able to go back then and be able to pay him back for that.
And this was right before the newspaper sensation that Ketchum did when he told the media about all the readings Casey had done.
Yep, that was in October. And when I read all the doubt that people had about Casey, I knew I had to do him a good turn. I immediately went to a newspaper in Chicago, told them my story, and knowing Ketchum, I went down to county courthouse and filed a notarized affidavit.
Well, I think we have taken enough time with these good folks. So if you happen to have any extra time while you're here in Hopkinsville, please drive around, especially downtown. And I'm sure any of the magnificent brick buildings that you see, including the Birdland Hotel Latham, was built by me.
By the Dalton brothers.
Okay, if you insist. But let's go. And I still can't find that list of buildings.